All right, on this episode of Hot Moves, we'll look at a clever camera move called Angle on a Path. We'll look at an extreme move between keyframes, and we'll look at a move where keyframe-based camera move is so obvious that it's maybe a little bit too much. This is Hot Moves. Okay, so the first move we're going to look at puts a clever spin on an already really cool camera technique. So let's watch the clip. And we'll just watch it one more time.
Get your hands off of me, you son of a bitch!
Okay, so this technique is called Angle on a Path. So imagine there's a path going where the car is going, and we're crossing the path just as the car comes by. And here's the technique demonstrated from the Hot Moves course. And this is the kind of technique that really rubs me the right way. Like, this is exactly my intuition, that there's a line, I want to cross it, it just feels exactly right. But there's a huge but. I'll get to that in a moment. And here the shot is, again, in Shot Designer. As you can see, the character's moving in one direction, and we cross over the path. And so that shows the problem with this technique is that where do you go afterwards? And it's like, as much as I get the idea for this shot all the time, I never have an idea for where to go after it. And that's what's so cool, is that the director on the Expanse figured out a next step. This is total innovation here. So here we have stairway number 1, we have stairway number 2, and I've broken it up into 2 parts just so we can better understand it. So first we're going to do, he comes up through the stairway here, and we cross over, and at this point, we're now here. And this is the clever part, is that there's another stairwell, so he goes around to the back of it and up a little bit as well. And now let's watch the shot again, and then this will all make sense. So we're crossing over the path, and then we keep going, and then basically we come back on the path here, but through the next stairwell. So this is real innovation. I've never seen this done this way. And this is really a director who understands the space that he's working in. So this is just, this is really clever. Okay, the next technique is an extreme keyframe to keyframe move. And the point of this technique is that you pick 2 keyframes and then do a wild move between them. So let's watch the shot. Let's watch it one more time. Okay, so to illustrate this technique a little better, let's jump over into 3D where I have a different version of the technique. So basically here we have a starting keyframe, and here we have an ending keyframe. But then the trick is that instead of just going straight between the keyframes, we take like the most crazy, insane path that we can come up with. And so check this out. So this is a technique when something is really crucial and urgent and it's going down right now. And this is what they did in the Expanse shot. So the camera move starts here over the shoulder of Naomi over on Lucia, and Alex is to the left. And so they drive the camera quickly over here. And during the move, they then also tilt down on the display in the middle. So to refer back to the clip, it's over the shoulder of Naomi, Alex is on the left, and Lucia is over here. And then suddenly we go around to the other side and tilt down on the display. But actually, why stop there? We could make this more extreme. Like, for example, we could have the camera move end over here instead. And so let me just dial all this in. So the camera would start in the same place over Naomi's shoulder, and then you have to forgive the animation. The interpolation isn't ideal. So imagine the camera looking upwards. Yeah. Okay. The point is that we just drive an even harder path further around them, and then at some point we'd still have to tilt down on the display. So the Expanse shot is less extreme, which I think is probably right for this situation here. But I just want you to get how suddenly dramatic it is to go from one keyframe to another and not just take like the simple path, but like to just go like really hard around and end in another keyframe. It's very dramatic, and it's like this is going down right now. There is one thing that's pretty cool to notice in this shot. And if we go back to the beginning here, they have a Dutch tilt on a little bit. And this is part of how the Expanse does space. And it's a great technique because basically as soon as you have like a little bit of Dutch tilt like this, you're off kilter, and then suddenly the whole thing just feels like zero gravity. But something interesting also happens to parallax when you do that, and that's something that we're coming back to in some of the live action episodes where we're doing some drone moves and some very, very cool stabilizer moves. And the move is what it is, but then we also tilt it a little bit to the side, and that just creates an interesting extra level to the parallax. You can see they got that going right here. You don't notice it at the end, but just notice again that the whole thing is tilted a little bit to the side. And that gets added to the parallax that's already happening. And I think that's pretty classy. And finally, let's look at another keyframe-based move. So we've been talking about keyframe-based blocking in other episodes. And the nice thing about keyframes is that they're a great way to think about the blocking, but we don't always want the keyframes to actually be visible. And so in the previous shot, we did extreme keyframes for the effect. They were visible on purpose. But in this move, I think that the keyframes are too in your face. Let's watch it. Let's just watch it one more time. So it's a pretty simple move. It's designed around the ending framing. So this frame here with Alex in the foreground and Bobby in the background. And then we just go back to 1 and then we track in there. And then even as a nice touch, she actually arrives a little later. So we arrive in the framing before she's there and then she steps into the framing. And I think all that is actually great blocking technique. But I think the move goes too fast. And the nice thing about keyframes is that you just kind of end up magically in good framings and it just feels serendipitous. But when you're going this fast, I can feel how it's designed. I feel like I'm being pushed into a very specific framing. And I get the same feeling that you get from a script when you can feel you can feel the story structure. You can see the strings. You can see how it's done. And in this move here, when we come into this keyframe, I feel like I can feel the structure, and that reminds me that I'm watching a movie. So I think if this move had just gone a little bit slower, then everything would have been fine. Then we would just have landed in a lucky framing, and it would just feel like camera work that's on track. But anyway, I hope you thought that was interesting, and I'll see you in the next episode.